if parents were actual role models in modeling a great life that the children wanted to aspire to, the children wouldn't want to be on social media.
Welcome to Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Dr. Shirley Lee, Cave Albacord, Johnny Dunn, and Tiberius Boy. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Third Side Convo. I'm your moderator, here to guide us through the wild new world of social media bans. Now, if you're under 16 and you're in Australia, not today. You're going to not be able to get on TikTok. Meanwhile, in Florida, they're like, well, maybe you can have Instagram, but only if mom and dad say it's okay, and only after they've embarrassed you by liking all your posts. Now, here's what the scoop is. Australia is going hardcore. If you're under 16, it's a full social media blackout. No Instagram, no TikTok, no YouTube. Now, that law kicks in later on this year, but the tech companies are already sweating because the fines are up to $50 million if they don't comply. Florida, on the other hand, is a little bit cheaper. It's only $50,000, and they're going to allow 14 and 15-year-olds that can stay online, but only with parental permission. Now, both laws claim to protect teens' mental health and keep them safe from online drama. But are they really fixing the problem? Or are they just setting us up for the next season of teens versus parents, the internet wars? We got a lot to unpack tonight, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. The Peanut Gallery should stick around for the after show where anything goes, except, I guess, sneaking on Snapchat if you're under 16. So let's get right to it. Okay, now I'm going to start out Cave Albacord. I was just talking to the other day, and a dear friend, and he just has a new little one. So he's got to go on and tell a quick story that made me realize Cave's got to be on this show. Tell us the story quickly, please.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that unique. I mean, we all have phones, and so I have a 3-year-old, and so what she wanted for Christmas was a blue phone. So we got her this little plastic blue phone. It's not even her first phone. This was her first phone, which was more of a smartphone. The other one's a flip phone. And of course, she's over the years had all of my calculators, any remotes that don't get used anymore. All of those have been her phones as well. So at this point, I mean, they're used to it because they just copy whatever we do. So.
But I heard you had she even had a conversation and on the phone you did that she told you about.
You know, the other. Yeah, she has whole conversations with my mom on the phone. So, yeah.
And she even told your mom told you to do something, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
My water bottle there. So.
I love it. All right. So when I first asked you, what about this whole social media ban? You thought maybe there's some sense to it, right? Well, let's go on over to our under 16-year-old panelist here. Tiberius, what are your opening thoughts on a complete social media ban?
I'm a little bit scared for it because I see it in Australia, and that means I won't be able to use social media. I mean, I'm only 13, and I'm a little bit scared just because almost all of my friends and all of the people I talk to is online, and I barely see anyone other than school in real life, other than like bowling and stuff. But I don't like to support it, but I do agree there should be some more parental controls.
Now, Dr. Lee, your job is helping people. What do you see about this social media ban? Is there some positive to it? And what do you think?
I think I don't know why the government even has to step in. This should be a parental thing. If you watch what your children are doing, and they're talking about TikTok and they're talking about Instagram, I've seen those sites, and I don't think anybody under 16 need to be looking at them. I've seen some stuff. I've seen people committing suicide from people talking to them. I've seen bullying. I work with youth all the time, so I'm seeing this always. And I asked them, where did you get that from? I saw it on TikTok. That's not good.
Got it. Johnny, what are your opening thoughts on this whole social media ban?
If parents were actual role models in modeling a great life that the children wanted to aspire to, the children wouldn't want to be on social media. But they see their parents deadbeat, broke, beaten down, not pursuing their dreams, falling into their own addictions. So what else would a kid do besides follow in mom and dad's footsteps? But it should not be left up to the government, as Dr. Lee pointed out. It should be left up to the parents. But sadly, most parents these days are pretty pathetic. And if everyone got together and said, to grow a tree, we follow these certain standards, no one would have on their standard that being a social media would be the best way to grow a child.
Gotcha. All right.
I think Johnny brought up a good point, that, you have to be the best example. That's kind of why my daughter wanted a phone. No matter how much we want her not to want a phone, if she sees us using our phone all the time, she just thinks that's what adults do. That's what people do. And so, she just kind of they just copy whatever we do. It's reality.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I see my dad sometimes doom scrolling, so I go ahead and go on my computer and doom scroll as well.
Yep.
But I want to point out something else, if you don't mind, Bob. Tiberius actually hit the nail on the head. He just doesn't know it yet. He said all of his friends are online. He doesn't see anybody outside of that in school. Well, that's kind of a problem. That's, I think, probably what a lot of the issues that maybe Shirley has a reference come from, is if you don't see anybody outside of online, maybe that's a contributor to some of the issues we see teens dealing with.
Okay. Anybody want to remark on that one? Jump in, anybody.
I totally agree with that. I mean, the thing with COVID that would happen, it really changed the entire social database. Nobody really wanted to meet up online anymore. That way, besides bowling and school, I barely see anyone. I mean, I barely go out of my house.
Right.
So what can we do to change that?
One thing we can do is this ban, so we can have people more meet up in real life, or just host more events or just put special deals everywhere so people would want to go to places and not just stay home and do everything by themselves.
Got it. Dr. Lee, have you ever tried to figure out a way to get people together and away from the online whole idea?
Well, I do. I do groups with young ladies, and we have a 2-hour class on Thursdays, and on Fridays, and we're getting ready to start that up again, where the children are sitting there and you can talk about things. I don't care what you talk about, but you can talk about things. Like I had one young lady came in and said, I slapped my mama yesterday, and the whole class was like, oh, that's not good. And by the time they finished talking to her, and these were her peers, she went home and apologized to her mother and came back and apologized to us. But they're not talking about they're talking about taking Instagram, and I watch those. They don't make any too much sense. Now, if you're going to go on Facebook and talk to your friends, that's fine. TikTok, wow, I've seen some stuff on TikTok, and people have gone overboard with that because they have the little children 2 years old saying stuff and doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and then they put it on TikTok and think it's funny. Parents are so out of control, so out of control. I don't say take it from everybody, but you have 2-year-olds that can probably work a telephone better than I can.
Right. Got it.
But
Johnny, how do we get more, that whole in real life thing, how do we actually get out and do that type stuff? What do we do?
In my own clients' particular ways, I just give them 2 pictures and I say, go outside and participate in your favorite hobby for an hour, and then go doom scroll on social media for an hour and report back to me which one made you feel better inside. And guess what answer I get 10 out of 10 times? Oh, it's being outside. But the fact of the matter is, once again, this is my whole thing. People's reality sucks so bad that they look for distractions. And the deeper and deeper they get into the distractions and destroy their ability to focus, the further down the rabbit hole they go down that they're never, ever going to get out of. If people's realities were actually worthwhile, they wouldn't be mired in all of these distractions that society throws at them. And these companies, they know. And it disgusts me because either in this world, you're adding to the value of people's lives or you're subtracting from it. And sadly, we live in a world where subtracting from people's lives seems to be a far more profitable endeavor. I mean, you've got alcohol companies and tobacco companies that literally kill their own customers, and people are lining up in droves to get that shit. It's wild, man.
Hey, Kaveh, you've got a 3-year-old. You've got the youngest one here. What have you already started to think about? I mean, I was talking to a client today, and they have 6 kids. They grew, they're raised on a farm and stuff, and they're not allowed to have a cell phone until they get a driver's license.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to infer based off of all 4 of our comments that none of us are particularly in favor of a law for this, but none of us also are in favor of kids having blanket access to as much social media as they want either. No, I have no desire to have a real phone for my daughter. I've heard of stepping stones that people do where maybe there's just a call and text phone for a while.
Right.
So they can keep in contact with friends, maybe one that has a camera for a while, so that they could take photos and share memories, things like that. But, do we need the doom scrolling? No. Like Johnny said, nobody's going to choose that over, right. Everyone will choose that every time, but no one feels better at the end of the day, that over being outside. But I also want to point out that we do have some precedent for this. I think over time, certainly people were allowed to drink whenever they wanted, and then we put an age limit at 18, and eventually that became 21. People were allowed to drink and drive for a while, and then when they stopped doing that, people thought that was government overreach. We were smoking in restaurants. They stopped doing that. At every step, it always seems ridiculous to overreach. And then looking back on it now, we kind of can't believe how we used to do it.
Gotcha.
So,
All right. Well, we've got to take our first break for our sponsor, and this is great. So what we're going to do is, please, subscribe, get on YouTube, watch our shows. And I'm just glad to see everybody here. But we've got to listen to our sponsors right now. So we'll be right back.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, I know kind of why nobody wants the government to do this, but I'd like to talk now about what would be the positives to something like this. Kaveh, you kind of mentioned it. You said, smoking in restaurants used to exist. Hell, my dad used to not go to a restaurant if they didn't allow smoking. Okay, so that was just the way they were back then. But let's talk about, what would be the positives to doing this, because clearly parents aren't doing what they need to do.
I think, I wish I had the graph now to show you, but maybe everyone's seen it by now. If you look at the suicide rates for teens, that where that starts to elbow up is right around 2008 when the iPhone came out. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think when everyone got a phone in their pocket and everyone can start to compare themselves to what everyone's online persona is, not what their real life is, it starts to create a situation that frankly, young people aren't prepared to deal with.
Okay. Johnny?
I would say the one positive would be this. The kids would be less mad at the parents if the parents just said, well, it was the government that banned it. I got nothing to do with it. And then maybe the parent would be like, damn, I can't just go put him in a room on their social media while I doom scroll. And damn, maybe we'll actually have to go outside together and throw the ball around.
Or talk to each other.
Yeah, or actually talk to each other.
Right.
Bingo, And since Kaveh shared a story, I'll share one too. What do you think my daughter's favorite thing in the whole wide world is to do, Bob?
I don't know.
She loves to go to the beach 4 days a week with her dog and stare at the beauty of nature and then go work her hospital job helping people all day long.
Wow.
And guess where she learned that from? Her dear old dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Tiberius, what do you think the change would be in kids if this actually happened? So let's talk about the positive. Because let's face it, it's already in law right now, isn't it? I mean, Australia, of course, they got to wait to the end of the year, but Florida, it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are positive with this. I mean, suicide rates will definitely go down. Going off of what Kaveh said, I'm not sure if I said your name right, but there's a lot of things that could go better. Companies make more sales, or people who do activities like putt-putt. It's getting more and more popular nowadays. Hell, I even went putt-putt a few times in past week. Actually, I had lots of fun doing that. I was with my grandpa and my dad. I had lots of fun. And I mean, everything is just going to go up. Sales, suicide rates are going to go down. That's good. And a lot of online interactions will go down, and that's less power. So power bills will also go down.
Wow. Dr. Lee, what do you think?
First of all, this is not going to work because you're going to have more children going to their friend's house who's 16 and over, and being on their sites and looking at all they want to see and I don't know what the government was thinking about. That's not going to work, and that's not the answer. The answer is accountability for parents. They need to be more strict on what these children are watching. Okay, first of all, you don't need a computer in your bedroom. If you're going to be on a computer, it should be I see you laughing, Tiberius. It should be in a common area where your parents can watch what you're doing. Now, if you're doing something that's sneaky, and you're going to have a problem. But if you had it in the open, where even if you were watching TikTok, your parents can see what you're watching. It's just another thing for the parents to say, babysit my child.
Well, since everyone's telling stories, I'll tell you the story about what goes on at my house. I have a computer. Well, again, my parents are divorced, so I have two houses. I have a computer in my room, and my mom sometimes walks in and watching me do something, and she's like, "Okay, good to know that you're actually using the computer correctly." My dad, he has the thing what we call a lab, where we have like 40 computers, because my dad's an IT guy. So obviously, my room's right next to it. Did that on purpose so that I can wake up and go on the computer. And, he has his computer right behind mine. So he knows exactly what I'm doing if he's also on the computer. So, I mean, really, he knows what I'm doing. My mom knows what I'm doing. And even at the office where we are right now, where the studio is, I also have a computer. And he also knows what's going on right there. And also, one thing that also really helps with parents knowing is the apps on their kids' phone. I mean, I know my dad put an app on my phone. It's called Questodio, and I'll even show it to you. That literally can stop the phone from working because he has timers on it. Right now, it says 45 minutes left because I've spent about 20 minutes on Block Blast, and I use a lot of time on my phone. I mean, watching videos is part of it too. But I mean, this is great for parents. Parents should use that, and I know because he got it from my old school principal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's a couple, I imagine eventually there'll be carve outs to these laws for something like YouTube, where that they can show that it's educational content or like, how to service an air conditioning unit or something like that. Stuff like that will be allowed. But I think ultimately these kind of tools, like Tiberius said, already exist on the device level that can with parental controls. To Johnny's point, if the parents cared enough for it, they can control right now what happens at the device level. But they certainly don't right now.
Well, maybe that would be part of what would be the negotiation. We'll say that, but then again, there's so many people that would never do that, and then we've got these kids commit suicide and kids, all this other stuff. And Dr. Lee's right that there's no question they would just go to their older kids, but we've got to stop the. I mean, what are you going to be able to do about a 13-year-old that's already been on the computer all the time? And so I think it's just a change in thinking for younger people, right? I mean, Kaveh, you don't want your kid when they're 16 to be so dependent on it like every 16-year-old is now, do you?
It's tough because they're going to be tech enabled to some extent, right?
Right.
But you just don't want the addiction element.
Right.
You want to make sure that they can balance that with being able to be outside and be face to face with someone. So it's impossible to think. Sorry, I should say it's improbable that they're just not going to have a phone. They're going to have a phone. It's being able to deal with it responsibly and for a normal amount of time.
Gotcha. So maybe they'd have a phone, but yet it would be totally limited on what type of online they could do with the phone, right? Would that work, Johnny, for you?
Well, I always recommend to my parents that they implement some sort of a token system where the kid reads a good book, they get 15 minutes of screen time. They go exercise for an hour, they get 15 minutes of screen time. They go outside and play, they get 15 minutes of screen time. And then the children are learning the very powerful skill of negotiation and bartering. And then they're experiencing all those other things. And then they're all of a sudden like, why do I want to go watch someone on TikTok twerking with crap in their pants?
Yeah, Dr. Lee, you were talking about some of those things on TikTok and Instagram, right? Now, have you ever been on TikTok, actually, Dr. Lee?
Have I ever looked at it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a scary thing.
Wow.
But if they're talking about you have to be 16, but
Okay.
You have to think about all the children that's under 16 that's already addicted to it. What are you going to do with these children?
Right.
See, Paris is an exception to the rule. Okay, I can talk to him. He can talk. We have conversations, and he don't need the computer to do it. But most parents, this is their babysitter. Okay, hey, I'm going out for a little while. Get on the computer. Do you know what your child is doing on that computer? Do you know who that? I mean, if they seen some of the porn and stuff on a computer that's acceptable to your 5-year-old, your 6-year-old, and I will tell you, I had a client, and she was 13, and her brother was 11, and she had a school computer, which shocked me because she downloaded porn on there and had her younger brother looking at it, and he was petrified. And when I came to pick her up, her brother was like, "Can I go? Don't leave me here with her."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Why?" Because
Oh,
she's
my
gonna
God.
get at them things again. I said, "Well, that's a school computer."
Oh, that's horrible.
These
That's
children
horrible.
don't download anything.
Yeah, you'd think that they'd shut the school would be off. Right, we've got to take our last break to hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, since I'm not sure where everybody is, I think, Dr. Lee, you're the only one that really said you don't want the government doing this, but that's why I kind of wanted to look at, what would be the positive of this. But on a scale of 1 to 10, is with 10 being you want the government to do it and 1 is leave it alone, what are you?
Put it back on the parents.
Okay, Johnny.
And you could have certain things that, okay, read a book. Someone mentioned about go outside
Right.
for an hour, exercise for an hour.
Right.
Okay, read a book, read a chapter. I had 5 children, and one thing that I used to do is, okay, read a chapter in the Bible. And
But that
after you
still
read
can't get you unqualified time because, like you said, you can't have. We've got to put limitations on what they can see. Johnny, did you have? Do you think the government should be doing this?
The only ban that I believe that should take place is people having kids that aren't ready to be responsible and actually raise them.
Wow.
Didn't we already have a show on that though, Johnny? I think we already did. I think they should go check it out. That's written in the description.
Wow. That was wonderful. That was wonderful.
Okay, Kame, you're a libertarian by trade, and you don't want to see the government get bigger, right? I know that for sure.
Yeah, this one's a tough one. My gut reaction was to say 8, but I do agree with what Shirley said. It kind of doesn't matter if it's there or not. If people really want it, that they will go and get it. I know, but I also know that every generation has dealt with some level of this. For us, it was television time. If we were home alone, we were trying to sneak and watch TV, and our parents didn't like it. They limited it, and Bob probably dealt with it playing with a sundial when he was a kid, and his parents probably didn't want him to do that. So that's ultimately everyone deals with that, and this will be this generation's issue is social media and phones, and then their kids will be dealing with something else. I think having the ban or not won't make as much a difference as they hope, but it may trend things in the better direction.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm hoping. Tiberius.
No government. Government is not good. This is the parents' decision. My dad would be so proud of me for saying this because I don't want the government. I don't even want my dad telling me what to do. But he's my dad. I gotta listen to him. I trust my dad. A lot of kids don't even know their dads sometimes.
Right.
That's the hard truth. But really, it has to be up to the parents.
Right.
When you say government, I say no. No, that's not happening. I'm not letting that happen.
But it did happen. Now we got to deal with it. So can we?
Okay. Well, yeah. Now we do have to deal with it. Now we either go to the government and say, can we please fix this and make it up to the parents? Or go with what Johnny said and look at the other show. I mean, really, I don't think people who can't really afford to have a kid yet shouldn't really have a kid. I mean,
I want to jump in again because I agree it should be up to the parents. I think we all agree that it should be up to the parents, but we obviously make certain laws for a societal good because we know up to the parents doesn't work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason the parents allow it, to Johnny's point, they're checked out anyways. And so if the government disallows it, they'll continue to be checked out. They can log in for their kids if they want to, but they probably won't because those same parents are going to be too checked out to do that anyway. So that the result could be a shift. The kids who really want to get it will continue to go get it. The kids who are just doing it because they're allowed to and nobody's telling them no, they'll probably stop and find something else to do. If that ultimately results in a slightly better society, hopefully a much better society, then it might be worth this kind of government regulation.
Well, look, this is a great conversation. Okay, I'm going to give everybody 15 seconds each for final thoughts. Okay, Johnny, final thoughts on the social media ban.
Look, I don't disagree with what Kavi said. My fear is the government will start inventing things that they can create more government for to do more bans.
I'm shocked that you would think that way. Dr. Lee. The government expanding. Come on now.
Parents need to be doing more. If you want the government to stay out of your business, then you need to be doing it yourself.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Kaveh, we'll go to you and finish with the kid.
I don't know that I can improve on anything that Johnny or Dr. Lee just said. They're both right. It can create a slippery slope, like Johnny said, and Shirley's right too. That if they want the government out of their lives, they need to step up.
Got it. Kid, final thoughts.
Well, I agree with all of our panelists, and I really, really think that this was a great show. I definitely do not want the government to do anything with this, but I agree with everyone else and everything everyone has said.
You know, what's funny is I have questioned since I came up with this. Actually, Tiberius came up with the topic. And so what was funny is I've asked a few people in their 30s, and they all agree we should have the ban because they recognize what they went through, and it's just horrible. So listen, this is why we have the conversation. There's pluses and minuses, and on the Third Side Convo, we're willing to talk about it, and we're going to talk about the topic. We're not going to talk about the politicians. Please subscribe. Go on YouTube, Third Side Convo, and then like us, and we will see you again next week on another episode of Third Side Convo. Thank you all, and hang around for the after show.